get to meet you, you get to meet us, and we can find out how we can help each other out. So in solidarity, welcome. My name is Ash, and I'm one of the many founding members of this collective. I just want to let everyone know that we will be recording this, and we'll put it on our YouTube channel after, probably tomorrow sometime, I'm assuming, James. I think that's what we did last time. And I also want to open up the doors for any questions you may have by directing you to the chat. So during the entirety of this meeting, if you have any questions, even if it's not necessarily pertaining to what's being talked about on screen, feel free to ask any questions in the chat, and some of the team organizers will be ready to promptly answer those questions back. We have a couple things on the agenda for tonight. First, we're going to hear from Cosmos Ray of Bronzeville Kenwood Mutual Aid, who's going to give us some insights to his work and the principles of mutual aid. Next, we'll be hearing from Risa, who helps lead our volunteers dealing with food and distribution, as well as some other volunteers will be speaking. Next, we'll hear from Lisa, Mika, and Dee about winter strategizing. And lastly, we'll wrap up with Manny, who will give us some words of wisdom and action items. So that's what's going to happen tonight. I'm really excited to speak with all of you and see all your faces, and just encourage you to get more involved with us. We're always looking for, more team members, volunteers. So again, feel free to ask any questions in the chat if you can think of any during this meeting. So let's get started. I'd like to introduce someone that the Love Fridge has been working with for since we started, really. Cosmos Ray is a member of Bronzeville Kenwood Mutual Aid, BKMA, and Chicago Mutual Aid Gardens. You can find BKMA on Instagram. The handle is BK_mutual aid. Their goal is to support their communities with mutual aid initiatives and to identify and build with allies throughout Chicago and beyond to circumvent the systemic oppressions and injustices they see in our communities. So Cosmos, take it away.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Ash. It's a pleasure to be here. Greetings, everyone. Sending love to you through the screen here. As Ash mentioned, I'm from Bronzeville Kenwood Mutual Aid, and I'm going to give what some may call a political education presentation, but I would like to maybe change that intention to more of a healing presentation. I think a lot of things around mutual aid often are ambiguous depending on who you talk to. And I think a political education has a certain connotation that it's political. I think this is more about how do we recalibrate ourselves together and get our compass to point in a direction that's healing to our communities. If it's okay with everyone, it'll be a roughly 12 to 15 minutes. If that's in alignment, cool. If that's too long, let me know and I can truncate it. And if does that sound good, Ash, to you? Or? Okay, I'm going to share my screen. I have a slide here. Can everyone see that? All right. So I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the indigenous tribes whose land we stand on. I'd like to also acknowledge the ancestors who formulated and cultivated communities that live on as examples for us to follow so that we can better our communities today. And I'd also like to acknowledge the innumerable people like yourselves that are currently working to foster communities with love and compassion in ways that we might call mutual aid. I would want to remind everyone that there is certainly enough love and abundance for everyone, and we got us. I think sometimes there's a scarcity mindset that's been conditioned, that we're conditioned by, and that creates a lot of division because there is this notion that there's not enough and I better fight for what I can get. Some concepts that I think are important. Mutual aid supports abundance, not scarcity, as mentioned. It supports solidarity, not charity. It supports neighbors, not saviors. Forgive my Spanish, I'll do my best here. Soy si eres, soy si vienes, doy si das, estoy si estás, porque si no es mutuo, no sirve. I am if you are. I'll go if you're coming. I'll give if you're giving. I'm here if you're here. Because if it's not mutual, it doesn't work. So I think of mutual aid as something that has to be practiced daily. I liken it to an instrument or a language. We've endured so much conditioning from our birth onward from the society. So we really have to be intentional about our practice of mutual aid concepts and make it a practice. It requires persistent intentionality and qualitative engagement. You really have to engage with your neighbors. Requires acknowledgement of privileges. We have to be mindful of the spaces we occupy and what we bring to those spaces from our backgrounds and identities and what privileges those might entail. It requires shared principles and community agreements. I think a lot of movements, sometimes we have to move so fast, but I think it's important to always recalibrate it on shared principles and community agreements, the way we work in our communities, the way we work with each other. I think it's very important that we center around those so that we have shared ideals and we don't get lost in debate. It disrupts oppressive structures such as white supremacy and imperial capitalism. So as mentioned, I would like to discuss some of the mutual aid principles. This is via the Bronzeville Kenwood Mutual Aid Group. We were able to glean some of these ideas from, I think, some of the New York mutual aid groups, and we tailored it accordingly. So this isn't written in stone, and this is just a cursory introduction. Once again, I wanted to give you a little more of a intentional approach, and hopefully you find it useful. So the first principle is mutual aid. We believe that our survival depends on the care and support of those around us. We're developing the skills and relationships that will help us to do this in the face of a government that continues to fail us. Mutual aid is not charity. Charity is the powerful giving crumbs to everyone else, but mutual aid is a long-term commitment to the survival of our community. Black, Indigenous, and other marginalized communities have been doing this for years without giving it a name. Even though a lot of the work was started because of the coronavirus and this crisis, we know that we're building on a long legacy, a very long legacy, and we hope it will continue after this crisis is over. The systems of power and oppression that are to blame for our struggles have taught us that we shouldn't rely on each other for help, which is BS. This work is about understanding that we are all connected and that we need to care for each other while demanding change from the institutions that are failing us. There is abundance for all of us if we build with each other, and you will see abundance mentioned a few times. Some examples of mutual aid are, again, indigenous societies from ancient to now in Africa, Asia, the Americas, and Australia. The Underground Railroad is an example. The Black Panthers and the Young Lords were born here in Chicago. The Panthers obviously had a chapter here in Chicago. Restorative and transformative justice. There are also ancient practices that have been updated to a modern time. If it's okay, I'd like to share a video.
Sorry, Cosmos, we can't hear the video.
Say it again.
We cannot hear the video, the sound.
You cannot hear the video. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Pardon me. Maybe I'll skip that then. I'm not sure what the issue is, so my apologies. I'm hearing it on my end, but yeah, let me keep moving. Okay. If the videos aren't working, we'll just keep working it. I appreciate your patience with my technical capacity here. So one of the next principles is abolition. We support the liberation for all people, including the abolition of all forms of imprisonment and ending the criminalization of survival. We recognize that policing and incarceration are ways that the government is failing and hurting our communities and breaking our bonds with each other. We're committed to helping each other without relying on these harmful systems. Since the videos aren't working, I just will highlight Ruth Wilson Gilmore.
Cosmos,
If you're
if I can
not
interrupt for
familiar
a
with
second.
her, please do. Sure.
I wouldn't mind if you gave the video another shot. I think when you do share it, there could be a button on the lower left of the share that indicates when you're. Oh, see, I guess if you're in a presentation and it's a video, I'm not sure. I'm sorry to troubleshoot this with you, but I thought these videos look really important.
What if we link it in the chat? Sorry, James. What if we link it in the chat and just have the main host post them and share a screen and he can talk over it? Does that make sense?
It does. And so that's fine if we move forward without him. But I wanted to give him a shot. I'm looking forward to watching him later. Thank you.
Okay.
What if we just put him in the chat though, and then the host of our host, us as the host, can broadcast it with the audio? Never mind.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I made a slide in Google, so I'm not sure. I apologize. I did test it, but I didn't test it in Zoom.
No sweat.
Okay. I will share these videos. They are impactful, but I want to also respect everyone's time.
Yeah. Try one time for the one time. Reset. Just reset. Share your screen and then share again and see if it pops in.
Okay.
If you, sorry to interject, if you unshare your screen and re-share it and check to share the computer audio, then we should be able to hear it.
Community.
Okay, so I am gonna reshare, and when I reshare,
lower left,
share computer sound. Oh, okay. I actually work in computer science. I'm embarrassed to say, but I did not get that one. Okay.
We all learned this by failing at some point at it.
That's how you learn the most.
Works. Yeah. Can you hear that?
No, we can't.
Okay. All right, let's keep moving. I apologize. So this is Ruth Wilson Gilmore. If you're not familiar with her, do yourself a favor and get familiar. She is probably the foremost expert on abolition in the world, or at least one of the leading minds on it currently. She has several books. She does a ton of interviews. And I think it's important to acquaint yourself with her work. All right, horizontality and autonomy. I grouped these together for the sake of time. Horizontality is important because, again, we recreate hierarchy readily. We're conditioned to do so. So as you could probably see on the scope, we approach this work as people who all have needs and abilities that we bring to the table. None of us should have power over others in the network. People may have specific roles or tasks, but we will all stay accountable to each other by building strong relationships. We oppose all systems that create hierarchies based on race, class, and gender, and really any identity. We know these hierarchies are deeply ingrained and difficult to unlearn, and we are committed to creating a space where we can call them out and change our behavior when we see them playing out. And this is important for all of us. I know I have to constantly check myself. Autonomy is another important one because I think you can take these principles and tailor them to your culture, your community, your neighborhood. We are committed to remaining independent from established organizations and to build a network based on neighbors being in relationship with each other. We recognize the importance of working with other organizations, especially those that are already doing mutual aid work in our communities. But we do not want our work to be funneled through a professional nonprofit or elected leaders. These are the people and structures who are failing us now, and they have their own interests that don't always align with our community's needs. Our joy and power come from our bonds with each other. I'll skip that again. That was Chairman Fred. Again, I'll share these videos later. So I grouped these two principles as well, direct action and diversity of tactics. I think they're very important. Direct action is probably more familiar, protests, rallies, bringing food to the love fridge. We believe in using and expanding the collective power that we have as members of our communities to achieve our goals. We all have power as the people who keep society running, and we will use that power and the strength we get from our relationships with each other, rather than relying on governmental representatives, appealing to authorities, or cooperating with police. Diversity of tactics. We believe people and groups should be able to use whatever actions are appropriate for their context and will not condemn those who use tactics that are different from what we would do. And I had it's a DAPL video from the Pipeline movement, and they do a really good job of explaining diversity of tactics. So where to start? Again, this is assuming that maybe some people are new to the concept of the word, or you hear the word a lot, but maybe want to distill it further for your own understanding. I would say the most important thing that I found is building relationships, qualitative relationships. In the West, we're taught to use this linear metric of quantitative success. And I think in mutual aid, you really have to take your time to really engage and engage and engage. And as you do so, you start to learn more and more about your neighbor. And then you're able to bolster one another. You're able to identify each other's gifts. And as we become more aware of our gifts, the more we can then address each other's needs. So I would definitely encourage you, if you haven't, to really focus on introducing yourself to your immediate neighbors and anyone on your street and beyond. Ask them how they're doing, and ask them what they're noticing about your immediate community. Volunteer with a local mutual aid group or some other group that is focused on community solidarity. Kwame Ture, formerly known as Stokely Carmichael, when I saw him the one time, was like, if you don't join our group, join someone's. And I think his point was that if we all are in groups together for social justice, it'll be very easy to mobilize, even if our values are slightly different. So I would definitely encourage you to consider that. And obviously a lot of you are doing that with the Love Fridge. Share resources, skill sharing, read more about the history of people's movements and struggles against oppressive regimes. And in the United States, there's plenty of that. But yeah, Latin America, Russia and so forth. Common pitfalls, recreating hierarchy. We're totally conditioned. I believe Octavia Butler said that she knew humans were destined for destruction because we have a penchant for intelligence and we have a penchant for hierarchy. We tend to recreate it, whether it's in the family unit, elementary school, church, our jobs. We worship hierarchy. So you have to really constantly check yourself, or I do anyway. Recreating charity. This is another thing we've been conditioned to do. We learned it in different ways that, giving, and giving isn't necessarily bad. Obviously it's good. But I think the charity, as mentioned before, it creates a power dynamic with those you interact with. And that immediately reinforces hierarchy. And it can make people feel shame and resentment if you're not able to meet their needs all the time. Or if you only show up the one time and never engage again, then they feel like, oh, that group wasn't really trying to invest in our community, Hero and celebrity worship. Again, in this society, we focus a lot on hero worship. When I see these folks talking about Blue Lives Matter, kind of believing that police are good just because they wear a uniform, that's hero worship, right? And then obviously we've been taught in this country, whether it's Hollywood or the music industry, to worship celebrities. And that just, you start to value certain people more than others. And that automatically, you can see right there, it creates an inequality. Allowing corporate, political, or nonprofit entities to co-opt or corrupt the movement. We've had certain politicians approach us. I think you have to play chess, but we're always reticent to work with political entities that are, Democrat, Republican, et cetera, because they are the ones failing us. Chicago last had a Republican mayor in 1931. So if you look around the city, Democrats have a lot of work to do. Okay, that was the long and short of it. We can always use more support and love, and we love to build with allies from everywhere. So please contact us. I'll share this in the chat. And if folks want to ask me any questions, I'll do my best to answer.
I just want to say that was a really great presentation.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And I would love to see all of the videos that you had embedded within. So some point, if you could share them, that would be fantastic, I think.
I certainly will, and pardon the technical difficulties. I did not anticipate it. I was super confident.
No worries, it happens. We're all used to Zoom by now and the technical difficulties, I think,
Yeah.
that come with these silly times. So does anyone have any questions for Cosmos? I'd like to open it up to anyone that is participating in this meeting to unmute yourselves, raise your hand, and ask any questions if you have any.
Cosmos, what was your first experience with either something you did that turned out to be mutual aid and you didn't know it, or like your first encounter with the term mutual aid, or like how you started thinking in terms of mutual aid?
Yeah, I think looking back on it, I've had a lot of experiences that were indeed mutual aid. My mother and father, when they were still together as a child, basically let everyone live at the house. And I think they fostered a communal situation that way. I look at some of my other mentors. I had a Kung Fu teacher who, as soon as you stepped in the room, you were simultaneously a student and a teacher. That was what you were told as soon as you walked in. And so that notion of reciprocity was there. I think the banner mutual aid I've heard for a while. I think most recently we've really activated our group around the coronavirus crisis. And that was a call to action from Kelly Hayes from the Chicago Mutual Aid Network to really coalesce into satellites or hubs within each neighborhood to really tailor our approach to the socioeconomic impacts of the COVID crisis. I hope that answers your question.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I have a question.
Sure.
What would you say for can you tell me the early days of BK Mutual Aids coming together, like some early memories of like the beginning, like the very, when you guys first started finding individuals to build, to build the skiff with, I'm really interested.
Yes, if I can call that Chris Preciado, they were very instrumental in organizing our group. They are amazing at so many things and have helped formulate a lot of groups. So basically most of the Southside mutual aid efforts that were born out of the Chicago Mutual Aid Network, a lot of that was done by Chris Preciado. And so I'd say around March and by April, we started meeting in Zoom fashion. And we started to speak from more of an intellectual level about ideas. And then we started to press ourselves to take action. And I think the sweat equity has to be, hand in hand with the intellectual kind of planning and organizing. And I think that we have some really bright people in our group. So it's amazing to work with folks in that group. But yeah, I think the hardest thing has been to implement some of these ideas and find sustainability in implementing them, whether it's food justice or baby supplies or housing or things of that nature. I think that sustainability is very, very much a challenge with a lot of these initiatives. Oh, thank you.
I think Maria has the next question.
Yeah, thank you, Cosmos, so much. This was really awesome. The videos were probably not needed. You covered so much great stuff. I really appreciate your emphasizing the fact that we recreate hierarchy. Like we want to recreate these things. So we have to be vigilant. Even when we think we're doing mutual aid, we can tend to start doing other things that are not so great. And I was wondering, so I'm like, seeing this in some of the amazing groups that I've come in contact with. And I'm wondering if you have any advice or stories of what you have done in the past to try to, just bring a
Cosmos, were you able to extrapolate her question?
In line with the notion of take what you need, give what you can. And it's also a mantra. It's a call to all of us that we're able to keep that circle going by giving and taking as needed, you know? So we have a need for baby supplies, menstrual hygiene, household cleaning, food. I think we've been talking about more infrastructure. That's a larger ask. But right now we could just restock the fridges more. The USDA program got disrupted once again, and it's just not sustainable for us. So we have at least 130 families that we were reaching every week, sometimes more. Grocery Run Club has been amazing, sharing like hygiene bags with us and adapting as needed. I think they're going to share some baby supplies with us. But yeah, if you have any interest, if you're in the area, if you want to volunteer, I know some of you have come down and volunteered. We love you for that. If you want to give donations, you know, we're happy for that. We're just wanting to build a community. I mean, and I think we start local and then branch out with allies and find ways we can redistribute surplus. But the immediate needs right now are restocking the supplies that we keep as Sacred Keepers. So that's food, baby supplies, menstrual hygiene, cleaning supplies, et cetera, et cetera. I think there's a decent amount of non-perishables, but we can always use more. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and the big ask, I just want to make sure, because you never know who might be sitting here, but the big ask that me and you have talked about is that you need space. The whole South Side, all of the mutual aid groups on the South Side are really seeking some sort of hub or space to be able to expand and hold the overages when hopefully you have them. So I just want to make sure that you also kind of put a little bit of a word in about that, because you just never know who's listening and who might know somebody.
Yeah, much love. Thank you for the push. Yeah, I actually sat in a meeting on Thursday with folks from like Chicago State and the Greater Chicago Food Depository, people that are a little more involved in policy making, which, you know, is good. Obviously, things like defund CPD are policy-oriented initiatives. But we were talking about all the industrial space on the South Side, especially, that's sitting unused and could be repurposed. There's a group in Greater Auburn Gresham. I think it's Ray Thompson. He was able to work with his group to repurpose a Save-A-Lot as a distribution site. We're talking about that, whether we can procure it by actually buying it or like leasing it or using it for a time. We could set up mutual aid distribution sites. We're in need of cold storage. We had about 15 allies on the South Side that were going to receive some food from the Farm Link program, and we couldn't really do it because we didn't have enough flexibility. Cold storage would allow us to post up, as you know, put it, I mean, the Love Fridge does this, right? Put something in there, it can last for days, you know, if needed. So if we have, you know, 1,500 boxes coming in and we want 15 allies to be able to use that, obviously we're gonna have to coordinate various days, and cold storage would allow that flexibility. We also could use dry storage for bulk non-perishable supplies. And then the other dream is to get some refrigerated trucks and work with each other to coordinate delivery and transport in mass.
Cosmos, Maria asked, do you need a space with a loading dock specifically?
Not necessarily. So we actually had a couple spots that were open, but there were always a few hurdles. And some of the restaurants were really cool about engaging and talking about possibilities. It just didn't manifest. I think the closest we came was Urban Canopy, but they needed a certain amount of money per pallet for their own sustainability, which I respect. And it didn't end up manifesting. They actually did have a loading dock, and you would, you know, need a truck with a lift gate or whatever. But I think right now we're open to wherever we can start, because we would rent a U-Haul or whatever. But I think if we can get some storage, like we normally have been doing distribution on Fridays, and we do deliveries as well. After doing aid requests every day, we were burning out our volunteers. So we decided, let's do something weekly very intentionally and try to get it in bulk. And so if we do that, we could store something for a week and then coordinate it accordingly.
Thank you so much, Cosmos. I really, really appreciate you. Every time I hear you speak, I'm so inspired. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for all you're doing, everyone's doing here. That's really appreciated. The Love Fridge has been inspiring, so thank you.
Thank you. So that was great. And now we're going to move on, and I'm going to introduce Risa, who leads volunteers and food distribution. Risa, take it away.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Lethbridge Town Hall. Thank you for sitting in and listening to Cosmos talk about mutual aid. It's a term we hear kind of thrown around a lot, so it's nice to have it kind of identified as to what it is. I am one of the lead organizers for food distribution, which is something that we do right now about, in large scale, about 2 to 3 days a week. So we have a big distribution on Wednesday, and we have with Imperfect Foods, and every other Wednesday with, we add Pilsen Food Pantry into that. And also for the month of November, we have hot meals coming from the hatchery. So tomorrow is a really kind of a huge distribution day with a lot of moving parts, but only like 4 cars, maybe 5. So it's a lot of output from a few people. And then on Friday, we have a fruit distribution from Edible Arrangements, who's now giving us fruit every week, which is really fantastic. And again, that's kind of a lot of moving parts, maybe 4 or 5 cars that are going to go all over the city but come and pick up some fruit from the south side and do that. So I kind of organize what that looks like. And then if, I think you heard Cosmos mention that his USDA boxes were interrupted. We were also receiving USDA boxes through Northwest Mutual Aid on Fridays and Saturdays. It started out Fridays and moved to Saturdays. And now we will, we're kind of on hold. We don't know if the larger mutual aid group, Northwest Mutual Aid, if they're going to be approved in this next round of contracts. The people they partner with got the contract, but it's just it's all up in the air. So if you join our Slack, then you can join the food distribution channel, and I will put a big call out for food distribution needs whenever we need them, which is kind of frequently. And then you can run food around for the Lethbridge, which is one kind of large part of the whole thing. But we decided tonight to have a couple of our volunteers who volunteer for us pretty regularly speak on their experiences as food distribution volunteers. I myself run a ton of food around, so I can talk easily for an hour, but I would rather give the floor over to a few other people who have done a lot of that work as well and get their perspective. So Emily, if you are here, it would be a great opportunity. I'd love for you to start.
Hi, thanks for talking about distribution. Hi everyone, my name's Emily and I've been volunteering for maybe 6 weeks in distribution. I started just cleaning out fridges and posting on Instagram about it a lot, and then Ash was like, hey, why don't you join the Slack? So thanks for helping me get a little bit more involved, which has been great because I lost my job. So this has been a really amazing outlet. And to use my car is super old. So basically just meeting Risa wherever we're supposed to go, loading it up. I bring my dog with me. That's the other thing. I have a super needy dog and I've been wanting to do volunteer work, but couldn't leave her alone. So I can load her up, bring her with as well. And yeah, we just drive around to maybe 4 or 5. I usually maybe only do 3 depending on the day, different fridges. And I usually do clean them out first. So I kind of do double fridge management. I'll clean it before and then just load it up. But I've been really liking it because I like to talk to people, and going every week, you do see a lot of the same people every week and when you're in the same areas. So that's been great. Yeah, I've been having a great experience and looking forward to continuing in the cold weather.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hey, Emily, will you talk a little bit about some of the fridges that you go to? You tend to do Moreno's and Love Shack. You do some kind of the same ones every week. So when you do Moreno's, when you take food to Moreno's, does it even make it into the refrigerator?
Hardly. It's amazing. I'll sometimes have people helping me unload my car. They're like, oh, great. And start helping bring it all out. And I don't speak Spanish either. So that's been kind of funny. They're laughing at me and and I'm asking, I'm learning the produce vocab. So I'm working on it, but yeah, I can talk to anyone no matter what language it is. So yeah, it gets cleared out very fast.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's always my experience too, particularly at Moreno's Love Shack and Todo Amor Carniceria up on the northwest side. You barely get the food in the fridge, if even that, before, you know, people are lined up and like, woohoo, they put the call out. Like I always say there's a little network, like an Abuelita network, where they all text each other and they're like, the food people are here. And they all kind of like come and, you know, help unpack or make it easier so you don't even have to pack it.
Yeah, and the redistribution too, like perfect example was last week. I had Stone Temple was going to be my last stop, and I had gone to Moreno's and was bringing stuff to Stone Temple, but Stone Temple was packed to the brim. So I took, you know, more stuff from Stone Temple and brought it back over to Moreno's. So a little bit of redistribution as well.
Yeah, there is a good bit of that, like kind of trying to figure out the ebb and flow of where to go first. If you end up at the Love Shack and there's a ridiculous amount of frozen meat in the freezer that maybe Stone Temple doesn't have any meat in their freezer that day. So yeah, there is a little bit of a back and forth there to it when you really kind of get into the like OCD part of wanting to make sure everybody has something. I go back and forth between fridges all the time. Awesome. Thank you so much, Emily. I will see you tomorrow. And then the other person that was going to speak tonight is Jonathan. John, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, so I guess I've been volunteering for a couple of weeks now. I've only made a few runs. I think, you know, the Mars fridge and another fridge on the southwest side. I don't remember the name of. Chef's Fridge, 47th Street Books. And yeah, I mean, especially when it comes to like the Mart's Fridge, because it's kind of in an industrial park, there's a lot less traffic than it sounds like is happening at some of the other fridges. But I know that, you know, a few weeks ago, I brought a USDA shipment to the 47th Street Books. And somebody reported like a concern with the temperature, so you know, I wasn't doing anything. So this was the next day, so I wasn't doing anything. I went over and checked up on it, and the fridge that was like packed tight, like when I left, was like completely empty. And there was like nobody who interacted with me at that fridge. So I mean, you know, I don't know. At some point later, you know, folks are showing up and you know, having at it. But yeah, so personally, I think one of the you know, bigger kind of frustrations is the USDA kind of interruption, which I think that people have spoken about. Kind of sucks, but
Yeah, we're on hold with that. We'll kind of figure out, it may be on Friday, I might get a message in the middle of the day that says like, hey, you're on 60 boxes. And then I'm gonna scramble to find volunteers. But actually I won't scramble because so many people want to volunteer on Saturday. It's fantastic. So I'll be hitting you up, Jonathan, if that in fact happens. We sort of expect that maybe it's gonna be a few weeks before the contract is a little bit more squared away, but who knows? I really wasn't expecting last week's call and we got that one too. But yeah, I really appreciate, Jonathan, like your feeling of, I think part of what happens when you start to deliver food to these fridges is you start to feel a little bit of a responsibility, like to the fridge and the community, even if it's not the community that you live in. So like the day that after you had delivered food, when we had determined that maybe the temperature wasn't working so well at the 57th Street Books fridge, and you ran back down there to take a look and just check on everything and make sure, and you and I had a conversation in the background about like, okay, if it's broken, you're gonna need to like tape it closed and take all the food out and take it to this other place. And you were like completely down and willing to do that. So I really appreciate that. But I think that kind of speaks to what happens when people start to get involved in this type of mutual aid and community work, where they start to feel like that reciprocity and that responsibility to complete strangers that they've never seen. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, we love that from you guys. Thank you so much. And appreciate it, Jonathan. Thanks for speaking.
you know.
Jonathan, can I ask you one other question? And Emily, you as well, if you're still here. What made you want to volunteer with the Love Fridge in the first place? Not just how you heard about us, but like what made you say like, hey, I actually want to get involved with that?
Well, to be honest, I'd heard first of the grocery run club, actually, which Cosmos mentioned earlier. I had originally wanted to kind of volunteer with them because there's a lot of hungry people right now, and I recently bought a car. It's the first car I've ever owned, actually, and so I figured, well, this is a thing that not everybody has access to, and I should be doing something with this. Like, I don't drive to work. It shouldn't just be sitting in the garage all the time. I can take my time and deliver food to people. And so I wanted to help, but Grocery Run Club is all booked up, or it seemed at the time booked up with volunteers. And so I was just looking around, and I guess somewhere on the socials I discovered the Love Fridge is doing a similar thing, and I decided to reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We appreciate that you did. I love that too, because I can tell you I've owned like probably 10 cars, and it never crossed my mind that I should be doing something like really impactful with them ever. So I love that you got a car and immediately thought like, how can I put this to good use for the community? So that's wonderful. I appreciate that. Emily, if you're still here and listening in, I'm not sure if you are, I think you might have to jump soon, but do you want to just say why what made you decide to start volunteering?
Yeah, I do need to jump out in a moment, but I guess I'm in the wellness field. I'm a yoga instructor and do a lot of like vegetarian, vegan type posting on Instagram. So, health and wellness and accessibility being really important to me. And I initially wanted to do a lot of gardening volunteer work this summer, but that just wasn't happening with my dog. So I think it was just like the perfect fit, the perfect timing. And I can't even really remember how I found out about Love Fridge, something on Instagram, of course, but everything just fell into place. And yeah, it's been really, really, really meaningful. So yep. So I got to go teach a class right now, but I'll post my, so I lost my job and I kind of started my own little like virtual like wellness hub. So I'll go ahead and post that if anyone's interested or wants to, share anything on that feed. I'd love to talk more. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Emily. Have a good night.
Bye.
So I think that pretty much wraps up our little bit about volunteering, and there's a ton of ways to do it with fridge management as well. You don't need a car. You can totally sign up to be a fridge manager. There's plenty of ways to get involved, but I'm going to kick it back over to Ash.
Thanks, Risa, and thank you, John, and thank you, Emily, for everything that you all do. We literally could not make this work without you, so thank you, especially Risa, who just grinds day after day. We love you and need you, so thank you. Now we're gonna talk about winter strategy. So winter is like coming. We've been blessed with like a nice week, but it's here. And it's the whole fridge thing outdoors is an experiment. And so we're not really sure what winter is going to bring for us, being in one of the coldest cities in the world. So we are trying to strategize and figure out ways to sustain. So to talk more about that, I'm going to introduce Lisa, and I think also accompanying her is our D. If you guys can raise your hands, D, and Mika, and I'll chime in as well. So Lisa, take it away.
Hi. Well, thank you everybody for being here. I'm going to keep it kind of short and sweet. But yeah, I just appreciate that everybody, is here right now. Yeah, so we've been kind of working through some winter strategies and just thinking about sustainability through the winter. I think, this seems like a particularly difficult winter that we may be up against just with COVID and everything. So we put together a working guide, and this is, it is a work in progress. And I will just share my screen so you can see it, and I'll drop a link to it in the chats. And it's just a shared Google Doc that you can see. So thinking about how we might shift some donation requests to more like seasonal produce in terms of veggies, looking at winter greens, shifting more towards some non-perishable items and dry goods as well. So we've kind of like updated some of the asks that we're looking for and shifting more towards, maybe household items, clothing, that sort of thing. Also keeping in mind that canned goods at a certain point can't withstand freezing temperatures. So we are trying to identify some, what we're calling sub-hubs, that we can shift some of those donations to. So if you know of any spots that might be able to take some canned goods over the next couple of months, we're also looking into a storage facility so we can have our own storage space for this as well. But that's definitely something that we are looking at. And then one other important thing to note specifically for hosts is that we will, need to unplug the fridges at a certain point when it reaches 32 degrees or below. Many refrigerators will typically shut off, but luckily it will be cold outside. So things will kind of like balance out in that sort of way. Some helpful resources here. And also if there's like anything that people want to add or make any edits to this, I can give people permission to make suggested edits, or, it's a learning process as we go along. Another thing that we have been working on is, and I see Steph's name popping up in the chat, is Steph has really been leading this pop-up initiative too, which kind of coincides with some of our winter strategies and aligning with other groups that have been doing this mutual aid work long before us. We are quite young in terms of, the landscape of mutual aid. So recognizing that, we can go a lot further and help each other out more if we're working together. So I don't know if Steph wants to talk about that initiative at all, or if Dee wants to add anything to winter strategies. Dee.
Yeah, Lisa, you summed it up, Lisa. Yeah, I don't really have much, but this is, growing list. We are young and everything. So this is for the community, by the community. So if you have any ideas, seen anything in the newspaper or anything that could be beneficial to this strategy, please feel free to help us. So that's all that I have to say. Thanks for being here.
And Steph stacked, so take it away, Steph.
Hi. I guess one thing that I wanted to add was that for the winter, not only are we looking for donations for ourselves, but we're also looking for ways to boost other community efforts. I think it's really important to mention, like you said, Lisa, we are super young. We're super new to this. So one thing that we really want to be intentional about for the winter months and moving forward is just community relationships and partnerships, and using our platform as well to boost other people that have been doing this for a long time. So if anyone also has any ideas of movements or organizations that we could team up with, we would still love to do that.
And I will also just add that, we're looking ahead towards spring too, and just thinking about, what that's going to look like as well, and kind of making plans. So if folks have ideas or, partnerships, align with us. Gina, I see you have a stack.
I don't think it's too soon to mention, but I wanted to make an example of that in action is I had been talking to a group in Uptown called Hi Bio, that does a Southeast Asian pop-up party, or they used to. But now they've totally shifted into doing, they did, what did they call it? Operation Takeout Argyle or something, you know, to try and support the local businesses there. And they've also been doing grocery handouts on a corner that we're trying to put a fridge at maybe in the spring. And that's something that I've been talking to Steph about. And so it all kind of works out in a weird way because we get time to build these relationships and better understand the neighborhoods and build those connections beforehand and strengthen the ones we have now. So it's going to be a good winter.
Do you have anything else for winter strategy? Does anyone ever have any questions about winter preparedness or anything like that? Cross your fingers for us. I think we're gonna be good. But
I've been combing over like homesteading and like prepper sites, because as it turns out, preppers are like, with their bug out cabins, are hardcore into this whole concept of like what can actually live in frozen conditions. So it's led me into some strange waters, but there's a lot of tests people have done on canned goods and the freezing temperatures. So I'll share some of that when I compile it into a less weird format.
that's so smart. I didn't even think of like doomsday preppers for like.
I didn't either. I just Googled about freezing cans, and that's where it led me.
I fell down that hole as well, Risa.
It's funny because we've had communities in Canada reach out, like other fridge communities reach out from Canada and other cold weather cities, and they're like, "What are you guys gonna do?" And we're like, "I don't know. What are you gonna do?" So it's just been a bunch of like back and forth of. We'll see how it goes, and hopefully next winter we'll be extra prepared after this test run. So, okay, I'm gonna move it along. Actually, we're at the end of our meeting. I'm gonna let Eric, aka Manny, wrap up, and yeah, go for it.
Hi guys, I was gonna say one thing with the winter strategy is the unknown of how long things will actually be in some of these spaces. It's a balancing act because the food doesn't necessarily stay in this position that long. So we're also having to learn how to like really get a lot of data on how long the stuff stays in certain areas, because it could be there for less than 20 minutes to an hour, which is long enough for some of these things to freeze. So it's like we want to be extra cautious, but it's also want to make sure you guys are aware that it's really is a balancing act. And then also learning things like being aware of the cellular level of some of the food, like certain things are just trash after it's been frozen because it's like 80 to 90% water. So it's a balancing act on that level. I like to say it's a pleasure working with this team and getting to know people. And this evening, getting to know like a little bit more of the stories from Emily and John, who are people that, you know, sometimes this can become a little abstract for some of us because we can't all be everywhere at the same time. And with the added pressure of being in a pandemic, it makes those issues even more crucial to find ways to connect and make sure that we're in alignment. So I'd like to leave by saying, you know, I really enjoyed Cosmo's work, like basically entertaining the questions and understanding what mutual aid means, and from his perspective and the group that he aligns with. And I'd also like to say, it's been a pleasure to get to know how to work in concert, to work with people, to find alignment in things, and like allow everyone to come and go in orbit and learn from each other, so that we can build better communication and work with our community, like the larger community, because it's really easy right now to just be closed off. This is a passion project for me, and it incorporates a lot of my own self-practice as an artist. So it's been a pleasure in some of the craziest period of my life to actually find something that like I can be of service to. And I feel like, I'll leave it at that. So in closing, we appreciate the hard work, the seen and the unseen. And thank you, Ash, for hosting, always. So in closing, we appreciate the hard work, seen and unseen, that contributes to this mission of reducing food scarcity. I'd like to thank Charlotte Cohen for helping this mutual aid initiative lift off. Safe journeys. Peace.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Manny, for the beautiful close off. We have a little bit of time left, so I just want to open up the floor to any questions directly while we still have some time. If not, we can end early, but if anybody wants to share or has any questions, feel free to unmute and go for it.
Hi, my name is Diane Gibbs, and I've been following you guys on Instagram. I think it's super cool what you're doing. I have come from the food distribution background, and I worked with a lot of restaurants and hotels in town. So I would like to get involved in helping you guys find fridges. I know obviously we're going into the winter, and setting up in different areas, and maybe even having the restaurants being able to, the ones that are continuing to be open, maybe provide the electricity, and partnering up with some of the folks that I know. So I'd really love to get involved with you guys, and if we could connect. I've got a huge heart for doing all this, and I want to help plant you guys in other areas as well, and help with distribution.
That's awesome, Diane. And also, if you were in food distribution, if you have any hookups with people who just want to give big old regular donations of food,
for sure.
Yeah, let us know. I think we should probably connect, and we can see where that takes us.
Yeah, I'm part of City Church Chicago as well. So I've kind of even mentioned it to my community there. And man, I have people, and then I have somebody that works for Home Chef that has to get food out of Mariano's, and they need places to go. So
perfect. Yeah. Let's.
I want to work with you guys.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Diane.
Yes.
And I think I put the email in our chat. That might be the best way to get a hold of one of us, but we're readily available. If you want to send us an email, we respond fairly quickly. So I can connect you and Risa, or whoever answers the email will get you to the proper people. So thank you. That sounds amazing. That's exciting.
Yay, cool. Yay.
Anybody else?
It looks like Kaylee asked a question.
Oh,
sorry.
Did someone ask a question? I can
It looks like Kaylee asked a question in the chat.
And Penny raised her hand.
Sorry, I'm having problems. Kaylee asked, have y'all faced any problems with disposing of food waste? Are you able to partner with community gardens to drop off food waste for compost, if this has come up yet? I will speak from my experience of going around and filling fridges and taking out old things. The number one thing that we end up throwing away is meat that has been put into the refrigerator and defrosted. And then it's, we can't determine if it's actually still edible, so we just toss it since it's not frozen anymore. So that's not really a compostable item. Every once in a while, there will be maybe like, a piece of fruit or some sort of produce that's kind of wilted. But we are partnered with a few different community gardens. At Stone Temple, they have a community garden, and we're at Getting Grown Collective. And we're also with a farmer called Chef Fresh and Fresher Together. So there is some bit of rotation into people's personal composts. And also Emily, when she drives, she always brings a compost bag with her. So she takes all of the veggies and any veggies and fruit that are bad out of the fridge and takes it home with her and puts it into her own home compost. But to my knowledge, we're not producing enough compostable waste that it would be necessary to have like a full drop off, although we have discussed, and James also has a garden at his house, so he composts food at his home as well. But we have discussed, like, in the future, if this became something that was an issue, we would try to create some sort of compost actually at the site, or some way of moving compost. But so far it hasn't really been an issue. People really pretty much do take fresh produce almost right out of our hands.
Thank you. That's the perfect answer. Manny, I think unless someone else raised their hand.
Tenny, did you have a question?
More of a comment. Hi, everybody. I did hop on a little bit late. Sorry about that. But I hopped on today because I'm also kind of working on a mutual aid or community care project right now called the Winter Essentials Drive. It's my 3rd year doing it, and really just getting like hand warmers, gloves, hats, that sort of thing to our neighbors who are currently experiencing homelessness. And I think to the point that a lot of you all have made, I think that there'll be even more people in need right now, even more people without permanent shelter. So I was just wondering how I might be able to like partner with you guys, maybe add some of the bags that I put together, like to some, like in some shelves somewhere, but obviously wanted to get like community approval before doing that. But yeah, I'm really inspired by everything that you guys do, and you know, really finding out what the community needs and just getting their needs met, kind of no questions asked, is kind of my ethos as well. So yeah, thanks for holding this meeting today, and I'd love to chat more.
Can I ask you so you were asking, like, you put together bags of winter essentials, I'm assuming, and then you were curious if you could place some in some of the pantries or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So there's someone who needs, you know, any materials. This year I'm doing gloves, hats, doing like a coat drive as well. And I have a contact in the community who does go and like pass stuff out and ask for what the community is really needing. But I also wanted to put like some just like individual immunity boosters in them this year as well, like emergency and that sort of thing. And obviously like masks, like what do you call them? Travel size hand sanitizer, just the things that people are needing, like given COVID, that we are obviously able to like run into CVS and go grab. So
yeah, I think that's a beautiful idea. And definitely, I like that you would be putting them together. Personally, we thought about like putting hooks on our shelves and like doing coats, but we were like, with COVID, we didn't know if that would be, you know, kind of pertinent. So our team is very democratic, like everything has to go through a vote, but I think that's a beautiful idea. And if you could send us an email with your contact, I'd imagine that's something we would like to get involved with. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you all so much.
Thank you for offering. And I mean, this is your 3rd year. That's incredible. Good for you. And I really appreciate that work a lot.
And Penny, it looks like you have some offers in the chat for people who want to help you as well. So we're working that mutual aid right here.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is I'm trying to communicate this year is that, you know, I'm fundraising like $1,000, and that this is something actually really easy for people to recreate in their city. I think a lot of people are just asking like, okay, what can I do? What can I do? And I think this is something very simple that like anyone, you know, even like a kid, a friend of mine, her nephew wants to like recreate it in Tampa, Florida. And he's like 11 years old. So I think that there's like a lot of opportunity. And I think that you guys are also helping folks to just realize that like we can all be a part of this. So thank you.
So 3 things for me. First, I would really love to help. If there's any way that I can support, I would love to do that. Also, if there's any way that the Love Fridge can use their platform to boost your efforts and initiative, I think that would be really cool if everyone else agreed to do that. And third, I also know of 3 other centers / organizations that were teaming up for a winter drive, which is Love Train, Trap House Chicago, and Southside Help Center. They're actually in a very, very high need for winter supplies. It would be really cool if we could all somehow find a way to team up with each other and just gather winter supplies for each other.
Yeah, there's tons of hubs that could be helpful that I know would align to Tony to help in all kinds of areas. I mean, we've discussed this, and Steph has been really big on really pushing for us finding hubs, sub-hubs, because some of the limitations we have for having things outside, you know? We don't want to have coats and things just hanging out outside for the elements to bear down on. So having these relationships that we have with some of our spots that are interior, actually, we're trying to use that as a benefit. So we just schedule things around that and a lot of people from the community to help dictate how they help get that stuff to those people instead of us trying to just set up camp and like offer things. So this would be great. I really appreciate you coming and sharing. And I was trying to talk about, I had to remember the compost question earlier. In the very beginning, I had no idea how much waste there would be. So we do have strategies around composting, but the speed at which things move out of these fridges it's not, the waste level is low. And if it is waste, it's like very minimal. But I have thought about strategies if we get these up to a certain point by using biodegradable bags and even systems that some grad level industrial design students through the School of the Art Institute came up with to really make something that makes sense for quality of life if it actually did get to that point where we're having enough waste. So thank you for asking that question too.
Thank you, Manny. I didn't realize you wanted to add on to the compost, so I'm sorry I passed.
I had a stack a bit ago because I was going to react to Diane really quick because it kind of brought everything full circle for me this evening in that we were talking earlier about mutual aid and the scarcity mindset and everything. And also I asked a question about, you know, how did you first learn about mutual aid or thinking about it? And my first experience was doing Rogers Park food not bombs out of an apartment 10 years ago. That was before Whole Foods had been bought by Amazon. So they had way more control. It was way more loose. We didn't have COVID. And just seeing the volume of food that we would get from one Whole Foods, 2 donations a week. It filled an entire sunroom and the entire house ate for a week and we had enough to give away at the end of the week. And yeah, so I really, really appreciate the knowledge in navigating that right now. That's really amazing and I'm excited to see that happen.
All right, I'm gonna open up the floor one more time, just in case anybody else has anything they'd like to share or ask.
I had a quick question. Oh, hi, my name is Andrew. Thanks, Manny and Steph, for the invite. This is like, man, this is like so beautiful. Longer story, but I won't waste your guys' time with that here. So quick question regarding like, as you guys are identifying these hubs, these spots that can serve different purposes, such as like hanging storing up the coats or the jackets, or like where to store canned goods during the winter, like all these different things, right? Is there like a all-in-one like map that folks that's just like really easily shareable and like is kind of live document so it can be constantly updated? Just because like I'm getting I think all these connections are really powerful and we definitely want to think hyper local anyway, right? That's back to Cosmos' idea. We don't necessarily want to lean on like, people from Logan Square traveling all the way south side for just like one interaction. So maybe we don't want to promote that kind of, I don't know, but I feel like the part of my brain that wants to keep things really organized and tight, and I don't want to impose my preferences, on folks, but it sounds like if there's not a doc like that kind of roaming around and easily shareable, for someone like me who would want to hop on real quick and is like, where can I go? Like, where can I go? Boom, 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 and just like pull it up and see it.
Are you talking about fridge locations or are you talking about like hub locations or both?
I guess I'm talking about like an all-in-one, like it could be a map and there's different symbols and like a key that represents like, so it could show all the fridges and the fridge is like a little black box and like whatever. Yeah.
We have a map that has, and if you look in the chat, Lisa just posted a link, but we have a map on our website that does have a map of all the fridge locations, and they're identified by a heart, green and red, depending on the hours. But that's just for fridge locations, but it would be cool once we get some hubs to pop them up on a map. That's a really good idea. We got to get the hubs first.
It would
But
be
I love that. Yeah,
we
that's
do have 2 hubs, and those are where 2 fridges are right now, and we could very easily just update the map and note like what is a hub and what isn't. So
yeah, it's literally just labeling better. Thank you, Andrew. It's like some of these relationships of like the momentum for this is, but this is our 4 month, as Ramon will tell you. This is 4 months we've been working on this, and so there's a lot of like button up, a lot of there's a lot of like urgency of getting these things set up, and now that the winter is upon us, really like exhaling and working on like making sure that we're like taking care of what we need to take care of to be a sustainable project, and some of that is like some of these fine details, but it's on our mind, and I appreciate that. It's perfect because we do have hubs areas now that I think they would be proud to say that they were hubs.
And I'm going to interject here because I'm totally brainstorming and I'm getting super excited about some concept, and tell me if I'm crazy, but Andrew, you just kind of like blew my mind wide open. If we had a map that had hubs and fridges, people could literally be like, oh, the Carniceria fridge is empty, but this hub is right over here. Let me go to the hub and get some stuff and restock the fridge. And the community could just become like become less interdependent on us coming to do all these deliveries all the time and fill in the gaps from the hub. Super excited. Thank you.
And this is why we have these meetings, because all those little suggestions are important and things that can easily be missed or overlooked. So thank you, Andrew. Appreciate that.
Too close to the sun sometimes. Thank you, Andrew. It's nice to see it from a distance, to actually look at it and see all of its parts, It's easy to get caught up in the,
I've been requested to speak by a couple people, I think. So I just want to say I'm grateful to be here, and everybody here is inspiring me. Like you said, 4 months, and this is a science experiment. This is a life experiment. It's ever evolving, ever changing. So I don't think there's a completely right or wrong thing. And so when people have input, we're open and just happy to receive and share and bring it full circle and try to find ways to balance and compromise on that. So just want to say thanks to those that have jumped in here and further inspired us from being inspired by us, or however it goes. It's continuous. So thanks for that. I'm catching a flight soon, so I'm just a little scattered, but I'm like inspired by like all this information I get to like fly back with, fly to Chicago with. So I just wanted to add something there. So yeah,
one thing I just wanted to throw out as well, when you guys, so coming into the winter, what about if the refrigerators have to be closed, still have the availability of having a pop-up and I don't know if this was talked about at all, but at those locations still, so people can depend on it, and then just have times when, pop-ups will be happening for deliveries or stuff like that. Just wanted to throw that.
Yeah, we actually had kind of discussed that in our winter strategy, Diane, about maybe publishing something like that where we, get a truck and load up from a bunch of hubs, a bunch of stuff, and then let people know we're going to be at the Love Shack from, 12 to 2, and we're going to be at Moreno's from 2:30 to 5 or 2:30 to 4:30, something like that, and hit a couple of locations and just see how many people we can make sure we get. Yeah, it's definitely an infancy stage. It was still in like the kind of thinking it through stage. So, but I'm glad you mentioned that, because it sounds like, again, that alignment of a good idea. When more than one person starts mentioning something, it seems like a good idea.
Yeah, and then my church tomorrow at City Church Chicago, 825 West Chicago. We're doing our grocery giveaway. We're starting that up again with those, with USDA boxes. So we're always looking to see if people need, partnerships and dropping it off. So if you guys think about wanting someone, a couple locations being dropped off at, or people even picking up and dropping off, if you guys are in need, I would love to connect that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be in touch for sure, probably by tomorrow. Well, I'll be driving around all day tomorrow, so if you don't hear from me, you'll hear from me Thursday.
Cool.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you for being here. This is so exciting.
Safe journeys. Radius, safe journeys.
Oh, gratitude, love and gratitude. I mean, I wonder if there's anybody else here that not saying flaws, but if they see anything else that we can push forward with overall. Anybody else here have any other input, that some things we can think about has not been, that may be on your mind, or what you see from outside looking in or inside looking out. Thanks everybody.
I can answer that, brother. I can answer that. Our blind spot is we always need more help. We always need, we don't use the word communities. We try to use the word community, and that is like really, and like Andrew was saying earlier, the idea is for the community to be sustainable with this, and we're really just amplifying what's already happening there. There's some of the fridges we've dropped where there's like it's self-sustaining in a sense, like the community really is really operating in a certain way, and then there's others where we're having to make. They operate different in the food quality. The food they ask for is different because they have homes versus some people don't have any homes. So we've even had things where we've researched to have the most biodegradable and food safe items we can, to have disposable spoons and the like, because of certain sites. And that's where the more we know, like having the drivers come out today and speak, the more we know about each one of these locations, the better we can actually like make these sites from our standpoint. The rest is going to be community interactive at best, right? And some of them are becoming hubs for things like books. We have pantries and the like on them. And there's even been some that within the group we didn't really think were going to be successful, and we were proven wrong within the group. We were like, well, let's try, but they've magnified the movement way more than some others that if we were putting money down on it, we wouldn't have put money down on that one being a really sustainable model. And so I think I have to say that's why these town halls are important, is we need each other. And this is our way of trying to reach out right now, because I can't be on the street in your neighborhood with flyers like I'd like to be. We can't really be that way right now, is to understand that these devices are put there to like help us galvanate and work together in solidarity. That's what this is. And so the more we interact with each other, the less burden and the less taxing it is on anyone else. And the more that we can, the more time we have to learn and work and grow with each other, as well as have abundance. So that, I just got to say, that's our flaw to me. We're beautiful but we need more. We need more interaction to be sustainable and to learn, because every time we open up, we gain more momentum, and that's how we're operating. So I got to say that before we get up out of here.
Well, yeah, we're navigating from Slack, IG, text, and the climate is way different. And I think for how we've been able to communicate, even with the issues and the mistakes, we iron them, and we're here now. So like, if we had the climate that we're pushing for, that we're redesigning, then these hubs and these other spaces, a lot of us are into arts and music, food, and all these things that we would be doing, it'd be way more abundant. So when in the right time, we will do that. So like what we've been able to do without all that is amazing. So, I mean, there is no limit. So, yeah.
And on that beautiful note, it is about 8:30. I want to thank everyone for joining us, and I'd like to end with one or two intentional breaths. If you could just center your body, relax your shoulders, breathe in through your nose, and out through your mouth. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. And we're going to try to do more of these town halls going forward. So please join us again, spread the word, and thank you all for your input and love. And we appreciate you and look forward to working with you further.
Aloha.
Thank you.
Safe travels, Ramon.
Much love. See you soon.
Wow, what a great
Thank y'all.
meeting. Thank you. Your guys are fantastic.
Bye.
Bye.